my life. And speaking of work, first of all, thank you for taking a minute out for the show. Um,
Definitely.
I would love to begin our conversation with surviving the last 3.5 years. How did you get through the pandemic, and how did it change you?
Yeah, I started this company right before the pandemic, like a couple of months before. Was biking around, pitching to local companies' Facebook ads, trying to figure out how to run a business, how to properly run Facebook ads. Fast forward a little bit. I mean, I guess not even fast forwarding, the pandemic itself was super challenging to get through, being in lockdown, trying to generate income. Started working with commercial cleaners at that time. And then once we were kind of getting out of the pandemic a little bit, started to take a shift, noticing like, okay, that niche is a bit restricted to like a 40-mile radius, more or less, for their clientele. Accounting firms, they can work remote, like I was doing. So why not work with an audience that has a much larger pool to fish in? So as challenging as the pandemic was, I think it brought on and tested a different level of resilience and was able to push through that. So I think, fingers crossed, if we can get through a pandemic when starting a business, there shouldn't be any other challenges that it can't overcome.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do as an entrepreneur and B2B and everything that you deal with LinkedIn and all these social sites. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, I would say we help accounting firms get more clients so they can make more money.
Okay. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade?
I wanted to play in the NHL.
Oh, cool, man. Right on.
Yeah,
So did you play hockey?
I did, up until about junior hockey. And then now I play in a men's league when I am at home. But that dream of making it to the NHL was quickly shattered, probably around the age of like 12, when reality started to kick in and you realize, wow, there's significantly better hockey players around me and the rest of the world.
I wanted to be a baseball player, but in high school, I was 4'11" going into my junior year, and there was just no way. I mean, yeah, you just you have to be incredibly talented at that size to be put into the
Yeah,
game. So it's yeah, there's always
the
something
1% of the 1%.
yeah. Well, I remember when I was in high school, speaking of career day, I think I was a sophomore or junior, and an ex-baseball player came in. And he walked in the room, didn't say a word, got his marker out, and on the board he put a 0.000000131. And he turned around and he said, "What does that mean to you guys?" And we're all like, I don't know. And he's like, "That's the chance that anybody in this room is going to make it into a major professional sport." And it
Wow.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's wild. So I always think about that whenever I'm watching a game. Sometimes I'll just see somebody that's not really that big of a player, like in the NBA, and I'm like, still, that is somebody that worked really incredibly hard and is lucky to be where they're at.
100%. Yeah, it's crazy how much criticism some, and kind of referring back to hockey, like the fourth liners or the bench players in the NBA or the guys in the dugout, they're not getting as much playing time, but like they're still so much better than everyone else at that
Yes.
sport,
Oh yeah.
which
Yeah.
even highlights like how talented the star players are in those leagues. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So how did you get to a point? Take me back to where you were born and raised and how these seeds of getting into finance and helping people navigate these waters. How did this all kind of grow into who you are and being an entrepreneur today?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Eastern Canada, lived there my entire life up until about 19, traveled to Sweden to play hockey there for a year, do another year of school. And traveling's always been really huge for me, and I've always liked, kind of my own independence. So I knew I always wanted to work for myself and travel. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. After Sweden, came back and worked, went to business school, was working a little bit and was like, hey, this isn't for me. Went backpacking through Australia and Asia for a couple more years. Landed in Toronto, was working in a corporate role, started to get a little bit more insight on how much money there is to make online. Um, and then as I actually got let go from my job there and came across an ad on Facebook about starting a marketing company. I'm like, okay, well, I have some experience. I could do that. It seems easy. At least it was pitched as a very easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Shocker, it's not super easy when getting started. But now I'm fortunate enough, I'm at the point where I have a remote team working with me, able to travel around the world and work remote, which is, I mean, I'm just checking off like a huge goal of mine, which is awesome. As far as landing in finance, there's no real rhyme or reason how we got into the accounting space. I don't have a background in accounting. I did miserably in my accounting courses in university. I've learned a lot from the clients we're working with, but I always tell them like, hey, you guys are the experts in accounting and doing that part of the business. We're just really good at getting you connected with other businesses who need your expertise. So that's kind of the long and short answer to your question.
Yeah, for sure. So in your life, who's been kind of a hero for you?
That's a good question. I've always looked up to my parents, very hardworking. They've always provided me and my brother with a lot of opportunities, whether that meant them having to sacrifice some of their own opportunities. And then I've always also looked at a lot of hockey players, especially when I was younger, as motivation for how hard they work and the role models they are. And now, kind of getting into this chapter of my life, some of the other mentors that I've either bought into their mentorship or their coaching programs, I look up to them as people where they're in a place where I want to get to. They've already been through a lot of the challenges I have. So I try to connect with them as much as possible. The ones that I either have a direct relationship with or just other figures online that I can look up to and try not to try to avoid ditches that they may have gone through already.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back into the annals of the NHL and see one game, be it or even the Olympics, and be at one game, where are you going?
I would go to Vancouver in 2010 when Canada beat the US for the gold medal.
Right on. I
Yeah,
the one of the first times I ever asked that question to somebody, somebody said I would be back in Lake Placid 1980. And I was like, wait, go back? He was like, yeah, I was there. And I was like, wow. I mean, there was not one human being on the planet that thought that that America could beat the Russians. Not one.
yeah,
Maybe the guys that were on the US team, but no one else thought that was possible. So that would have been an unbelievable amount of
that would
energy.
be cool.
Yes.
That'd be cool. Even watching the movie, just
Yeah.
seeing like how they replayed it back, you get chills watching it. It's quite cool.
I think about the Green Bay Packers, and they were a really young team transitioning out of a major quarterback. And I think Collinsworth, who's kind of just, he's always got kind of very feral views on things, but he was like, these are all rookies. This is a college football game for these guys. And I think about that with the 1980 team. They were just a bunch of kids that had no idea what was going to happen. There was nothing to lose, like
Yeah.
pure abandonment. Just let's go. And you know what? Sometimes you need that kind of grit and freedom to get there.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you don't have anything to lose, like your back, maybe you could say it's against the wall, like you have nowhere else to go, and sometimes people just bring out like beyond the best version of themselves, and they can achieve great things. So that's, I mean, a real solid example of that happening with that Olympic team.
Yeah, for sure. So, what is your motivation every day? What gets you out of bed? What gets you to be able to travel and to be able to help your clients and to do everything that you want to do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mentioned this the other day to someone I was speaking to as well, and it's the background on my phone, and it's a quote that says, "Choose your hard," and that's my motivation. It's hard to work for someone else. It's hard to work for yourself. It's hard to be rich. It's hard to be poor. You just have to choose your hard. So when I get up, I can either do this for myself and build the lifestyle I want and help our clients, or I can go and do it for someone else. And I've done that in the past, and I just wasn't as fulfilled.
So, what's been one of your best client success stories?
Um, we did a lot of work with the employee retention tax credit. Helped some clients receive some huge returns, like seven-figure returns over the course of a year working with them. Most recently, one of our clients, we've helped him add about like 50K of monthly recurring revenue in the first 4 months or so of working with us. He provides fractional CFO services, so relatively high ticket. He's very good at closing, and we just keep teeing up really qualified appointments for him, and he keeps knocking them down. So that's super exciting to see because, and I was just mentioning this to my team earlier, that we're not just setting appointments and generating leads. We're helping someone else build their business that's able to impact his life. He can hire more people, impact that family's life, and impact his clients. And there's a massive ripple effect. So trying to see the greater picture versus, all right, this is just a sale and now we're getting leads and appointments. It's what is happening, a few degrees further.
So you obviously get the chance to travel. You're in Mexico and you're going to go to the ocean. What's been one of the most surprisingly beautiful or magical places that you traveled to that you just didn't expect it was going to be like that?
I went to Machu Picchu last year, last April, I think. That was stunning. It is, I'm not sure if you had the chance to be there yet or not.
Not yet.
It's so remote. It was so difficult to get to as far as like the bus, the train, and then another bus, or those who hike in. I took the kind of the lazy man's way in. But it was just an unbelievable view. Like you're way up in the mountains and there's so much history there. I was just in awe while looking around. So that was, I'd say, like a standout destination I've been to.
I think around late March of 2020, right as the pandemic was raging, I'd cut myself with a razor, and I went to the hospital up the street, and the ER doctor was kind of this hardcore dude, and he was getting ready to go there, and he was so upset because I was like, dude, tell me what's going on with this. Give me the skinny, what's happening with this pandemic? And he basically broke down like who's the most vulnerable, but he was just all the air went out of him when he was like, I was going there and
Oh,
I'm sure he got back, but I
hopefully.
every time I hear those words, I'm like, I always think about that poor ER doc. So it's wild,
Yeah,
but
hopefully you had a chance to get back. It's
yeah.
it's a cool spot. I would highly recommend it if you do have a chance to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into the 18, 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far in life. What advice would you give that young version?
That's another great question. I would say to really truly believe in yourself and what you're capable of doing and not be scared to invest in yourself as well. That is something that I think probably holds back a lot of people, that fear of what if it doesn't work out? What if I spend the money and it doesn't work? And it's taken me a while to figure it out, and I'm still growing, obviously, but the other side of the fence of what if it does? And now seeing that, it's like, I mean, where the company's at now from where it started 4.5 years ago, I never could have imagined. I just wanted to replace my corporate income. And I mean, it's definitely exceeded that now, which is really cool. And to have a team and to be able to work remote, it's yeah, trust yourself, invest in yourself, and like, what if it does work? Not what if it doesn't.
That's it. Yeah. I always think about, I come from the jazz radio world. John Coltrane's favorite word was yes. That's it. You just got to believe.
Yep.
And there's a level of manifest destiny too. If you do put your mind in that place where this is what you want to do, then you're in a better place than otherwise. Um, so of all of the things that you've done and seen and become and overcome, what are you the proudest of?
I would have to say this company that just like kind of mentioned it even at the start of this, I've always wanted to work for myself and have that kind of financial and time freedom. And now being able to travel around, not needing to rely or like not rely, but depend on someone else or get approval for vacation. Um, Being able to give that flexibility to my team members as well. Like if I wanted to pack up and go to Argentina tomorrow, there's nothing stopping me from doing that. And as long as there's internet, we can just plug in and business carries on as usual. So that to me is something I'm extremely proud of and try to reflect on a lot, especially in the moments where the day-to-day stuff gets in the way and it feels like the walls are caving in. But in reality, it's like, no, this is pretty cool. We've
So
got it sorted out.
absolutely you do. Yeah. So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your team, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, these are hard hitting questions, Joe. Um,
This is waking you up before the surf.
yeah, it is. My perception of myself. I would like to think I'm pretty easygoing, very transparent. I like to give the information to people straight, and I also hope everyone just gives that back to me. If I'm gonna give out the constructive criticism or kind of like not, well, I don't know if chirp's the right word, but like when you're in a close relationship with friends and like you're egging them on, I would like for that to come back as well. But mainly the transparency. I find that's huge between any relationship, that open communication. So I try to convey that to everyone I speak to, and I just ask and hope that people feel comfortable enough to give that back to me as well.
So if anyone wants to reach out to you, hire you, learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Best way would be on connecting on LinkedIn. I'm on there every day. That's where we provide all of our services for our clients. Practically live on LinkedIn, so that would be the best spot to get in touch. And I'd love to connect with whoever wants to reach out.
Right on. Hey, man, this has been great. James, thank you so much for your time. Keep on digging Mexico. Send my love out there and have a great 2024, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.